Hold on, let me share it. Billy Joes. Hey, how are you? We're live in my Facebook group if you want to join. Let's see. Yes, that's us. We there. All right, cool. How are you doing today, Adrian? So listen, I'm still going. I'm still doing it. I've been on here since 10 a.m. Been on here since 10 a.m. 10:30. Let me be clear, 10:30, and I have been like just going nonstop. And so I'm happy that I'm not totally wiped out. After lunch was kind of a struggle with Sharetta, but I'm here.
Okay. All right.
um,
You a trooper. You go all day. You
all
strong.
day, all day. Okay, like this was a telethon for real. So anyway, I want to introduce everyone to to Adrian. She's from the Highline tribe. Essentially we've been having different conversations around health, wellness, cannabis, herbs, yoga, like the list goes on, spirituality, and we touch on a ton of different topics. So this one I'm actually really excited about because I know that the lupus community really goes unheard because, and I'm making an assumption here because I'm actually not a survivor of the illness, but this is what I hear, is that for the most part, people who suffer with this chronic disorder are so exhausted that they don't have the ability to advocate for themselves.
You got that right. That's exactly it. And this is why I do what I do.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
I'll let you introduce yourself.
Okay. Well, hello everyone. My name is Adrienne Smith. I am the founder of a brand right now that consists of New Age Creations, which is my custom designs. But I'm really passionate about the other piece of my brand, which is New Age Renewal. With New Age Renewal, we are a holistic wellness business that offers wellness consultations for CBD and herbs, also as well as education for both. And we offer products that I make to help people feel a sense of relief from. And mainly what I focus on is someone that looks like me or is like me. As Ashley said, I am a lupus warrior, is what I like to call myself, which means I suffer from a lot of chronic pain. So I started on this journey to help people that were suffering in silence, like myself, to not have to deal with the stigmas of feeling, like you have to, like, I feel like sometimes I was in a litigation for court. I had to defend myself just to get relief for a disease that my doctors knew was debilitating for me.
Mhm.
And this was every month when it was time to try to get some type of pain relief for this disease. So I just kind of decided that enough was enough for me, and I no longer wanted to deal with that. So this is how I started out with this journey. And to back up a little bit, I really started out because we had something called a pandemic a few years ago, which limited my access to my doctors, right? So it was even worse trying to get any care. I mean, I don't know if anybody remembers, but even the so-called president at the time, he was taking our medication that we use, Plaquenil, and telling people that, and in fact, I got a letter from the government saying, we thank you and appreciate you for understanding and realizing that this medication will help the country with their COVID.
Wow.
To survive every day and deal with our symptoms. So he was telling people that Plaquenil would help with COVID. So not only did we have this debilitating disorder and we're not getting much help, but now one of the drugs that was allowing us to just function every day was being removed from us.
Hmm.
And so that was really
You know,
hard for me. And so, oh, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, I think that it's important to acknowledge that for a lot of people, certain medications are necessary and required, right, in order to function. And then when we
Mm-hmm.
over
Mm-hmm.
oversaturate or oversupply, or I can't even think of the word. We give out too much of it to people who don't necessarily benefit from it. We're increasing the chances of somebody not, being able to get up in the morning, or go to work or something like that.
Yeah,
So anyway,
absolutely.
go ahead.
And that was the case. And so luckily I had a connection with one of my other lupus warriors, and she just so happened to have an abundant amount. So I was okay. But I don't know what those who didn't have it, what
Yeah.
they did. Because again, as you stated, this is a medication. It wasn't an option. It was basically something that you did as after you rolled over, you took your medication, you just needed that to get through the day.
Yeah.
So that was really heartening for me to disheartening for me to hear. So that also is when I became furloughed from my job. So then I said, well, what do I do? Of course, that's another stressor. So then I have a trigger that triggers a flare
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
of my lupus. And so, that all of that happened, but it was a blessing in disguise, really, honestly, because it gave me the opportunity to learn about this plant called CBD,
Mm-hmm.
and get educated on it and realize how it could actually help me. And then when I realized it could help me, then I realized I need to figure out a way to help others. So this is how New Age Renewal was started for me. And
Mm-hmm.
so my mission is I really want to try to offer the best high quality services and products to help people achieve that total wellness and for them to live their best life. That's important with achieving sleep without a high feeling. And so, what I see my vision is definitely out here building strong relation community
Mm-hmm.
by providing education and on the benefits of CBD to help people achieve their total wellness. So for me, I want to be very transparent. I want to be looked at as having respect, integrity, and to have some type of inclusion. It's very important for me to have that. So I was
Can you tell
diagnosed
us?
myself personally at the
Hold
age of.
Hold
Mhm.
on, pause, pause, pause. Tell us a little bit more
Okay.
about what that means to you. Integrity, inclusivity. Like those are some really big and powerful words that usually get misinterpreted when they hear them, and especially when
Mhm.
they're all together. So, tell us a little bit about that.
So I have always said I am a brand even before I became a business. It was important for me to be who I am, be my true self, to show up. And I've always been raised to have respect for others, no matter what they look like. And so it's important for me to show that in my everyday walk, to have respect, to be someone that can be relied on, to not have to question what I'm saying because I've never shown anything but integrity and honesty and truth. And I have never excluded anyone. So inclusion is, and especially as a woman and a Black woman, inclusion has been important for me to be able to respond with others, but also for me, I've always welcomed everybody into my space as long as there's positivity there. I've always, whether you have a disability, if your skin doesn't look like mine, whatever the case may be, inclusion has always been something that's been really high on my list of qualities when I look for people that I call friends. And the same, if you don't have those same qualities, you're definitely not in my circle.
Yes, if they not vibing like you, they don't belong here. Okay.
That's right. That's right.
Yes, I love it. I mean, and I think that's important because your business is an extension of you. Because you just sat here and you just told us
Hmm.
all the stuff that you've gone through for you to be able to even recognize the issue that's in the community and of the people who are dealing with similar issues, right? Like, and
Hmm.
it and
Yes.
it's valuable. It needs to be talked about. It needs to be expressed out so that way people can get wind of that. Because like I started the conversation saying, most people who experience what you experience, they just tired. They like, look, I just want to get home because I worked hard today, or I just want to get to bed tonight. Like it's nothing more, and they can't. Like it's not their fault, but they just can't. And so the fact that you happen to be one of, a few, at least as far as I know, to be interested in doing something like that, I think that is the integrity, that is the respect, that is the, it's all of that, all encompassed. Like that story is that. And so the reason why I made you say it and kind of made you pause for a second is because I know that about you. I'm just not sure if the way that you said it let me know that you know that about you.
Okay.
You good. Keep
I
going.
I think um that's the introvert in me, and also the person, I don't like the light shined on me a lot. So a lot of times I just kind of, it is what it is. That's how I think. But you're right. It is definitely and integrity is like the most for me. I can't, for me, there's no reason not to be truthful, right? I mean, I just can't fathom why you would need to not be truthful with a person, especially in a business. You want to be able to trust someone, and so that is why I don't. I started telling my story. I used to dim my light. I used to just think, oh, it is what it is. And someone as myself that has lupus, as you said before, a lot of times we are not the social butterflies. We are not the ones that get invited to things, because at the last minute, if we listen to our bodies, we may not show up. It's not intentional. It's
Yeah.
because it's important to listen to our bodies and to take a break, and we may have to miss out on things. We do push ourselves, and I know my family always tells me that you push yourself too much, especially with work. But work pays bills. But it is what it is. But it is definitely, um, integrity is probably up on the top for me. Definitely number
Yeah,
one. Hmm.
absolutely. Especially in a world where like everybody's trying to take advantage of everybody, it's important to know that like there's at least some place you can go that's safe, like that you can have certain
Hmm.
conversations. And not every space is intended for everything, right? And so, in a
Hmm.
lot of situations,
Absolutely.
friends and family may just not understand your experience. And so it makes it
Hmm.
hard for them to empathize because they don't get it. They just don't.
Yeah.
And so, bringing awareness and moving in your truth and moving in your purpose, regardless of where you feel most comfortable, right? Like I'm also an
Hmm.
introvert where energy management is a thing, right? Like I
Hmm.
have to make sure
Hmm.
that I take isolated time. I have to make sure that I have time to process. I need recharging. Like I have to be very, very intentional about doing that
Hmm.
for myself. And so and sometimes it's seen as selfish,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? And
And
it's like,
you're right. And that's what or being stuck up because,
mhm,
you're taking that time for yourself and not really wanting to deal with other people's problems and negativity. Hmm.
yeah, absolutely. And so I think when we do step out of our shell, we do it very, very intentionally and specifically because we spent so much time with ourselves trying to figure things out so that way we can manage our time effectively. And
Hmm.
so you're doing a great job. I just want to say that you're doing a great job.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And and you live and you learn. So because I am very I don't want to say suspicious of people, but I do take the time to see if spaces are meant for me to be in.
Hmm.
And so I've had myself in places where I shouldn't have been. I've
Right.
had to learn that, like, so now again, I used to dull my light, and now I've empowered myself, and I know that I am enough, that I have a voice and I do matter, and I don't have to just take whatever somebody gives me. So I've sat at the table with people, and I've respectfully just gotten up and said, you know what, this is not for me. This does not fit in with my, the direction that I'm headed. It does not align with my mission. So
Yeah.
I just will respectfully decline this offering. You guys have a great day. And
Yeah.
it's okay. I always used to think I had to be a people pleaser. When I started out, just take what I could get, fit in wherever I could fit in. I'm hoping to be able to create that table to other people can bring their seat to the table. So, at some point in this journey. So yeah, definitely, that's very important.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things you're really, really excited about right now?
So, I'm always a lupus advocate. So if we just focus on that, I'm getting ready for so May is Lupus Awareness Month. I am an advocate for the Lupus Foundation of America. And so what I'm planning on doing all kind of walks, we're going to do some fundraisers locally here. There's a bowling fundraiser in Detroit that I'll be a part of. And I was just asked a couple weeks ago to be a part of. So I'm super excited to be doing that. And then, May 10th is National Lupus Day. So for anybody who wants to be supportive of us, we ask that everybody wear purple on that day to help celebrate anybody that whether they're fighting or has lost this battle with this debilitating disease. It's very important. It's kind of like a purple out day. So that if you're looking for a way to support, that is definitely some way that you can do that. And what I do tend to do every day for the month of May is because now I feel like it's my mission as an advocate to make people aware. Every day I post something on my social media to make people aware of lupus. I even talk about ways that you can support us. The worst thing somebody can say is, you don't look like you're sick, or well, I know somebody else who has lupus, but they don't have this, and maybe you need to do this. And it's not, first of all, it's not, one case is different from another. So just because someone has a certain thing and certain something has worked for them does not mean that that will help for us. So we just need you to listen and hear us. And if there are other things that you would be helpful, just call them up and say, how are you doing today? No, really, how are you doing? Because what we tend to say is, oh, I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
And our okay would have most people in the hospital for days and weeks at a time. Our okay is probably a pain level of 20,
Mm-hmm.
if that were a thing. But we're going on and on. And it's just like, we're not looking for someone to feel sorry for us.
Yeah.
Just understand what we're going through and be
Yeah.
supportive. If I can't stress that enough, I definitely know we need a support system. I
Mm-hmm.
have the best support system. My mom was my first support system. She was my first advocate when I couldn't advocate for myself.
Yes. It's okay.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. Take your time.
So, I
Do
was
you want me to,
diagnosed at 19, and
me to
right
fill
when
in,
my life was
Adrian?
supposed to start. Huh?
Adrian, do you want me to fill in space while you take a breath?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
You
I'm
good?
good.
Okay.
Hey, I'm good. So, I was diagnosed at the age of 19, right? Right when my life was supposed to start. I was going away to college. And then I had this disease that I didn't know what it was. And so, at the age of 19, most people back then, people had not, this was 29, 39 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Most people didn't know much about lupus, right? And now you don't hear a lot about it. Every once in a while, it'll be in a TV show. But so it does take a lot of time to diagnose, years, really, honestly. And so I went to several doctors who said it was all in my head, that nothing was wrong with me. I was too young. I had um, TIAs.
Mm-hmm.
I was told that they were because I was addicted to drugs. There was nothing. I was too young to have any of that. And so, because of what I looked like, the doctors that I came in contact with didn't take the time to actually look at my symptoms and see what was happening. I went to the ER several times, was sent home. One particular person, I don't even like to call him a doctor. I just call him the man with the white coat. He came, first of all, when I went to the ER, I should have been triaged because I was actually having stroke symptoms. I mean, like my face and, the speech and strengthen my body, all of that. So they just made me sit there for like 6 hours, just like anybody else.
Mhm.
So if I had been having an active stroke, that was not good. I wasn't getting the treatment that I needed. So um, when I did get back there with him, and he said to me, I need you to tell me what it is that you took. You are high on something. There is nothing wrong with you, and I am not going to waste my time, my money, and our machines to treat you and do these scans, because you are definitely high on something. 19-year-olds don't have strokes. So you need to tell me what you took. This is all just because of how I look, where I live, and my age. And so I'm telling this man, I'm like, if you don't believe me, do a drug test. If you don't believe me, draw my blood, do something, but please don't send me home to die. Like, I was super scared for myself. And so my mother worked probably an hour away at the time. And so when I got sick at work, they called her. And so she rushed home. She got to the hospital. And when I say, my mother I'd never heard my mother say a bad word in my life. But she really went in on this man in this white coat, and explained to him, what he needs to do his job. Still, even with that, he called security and we were put out of the hospital.
Um,
My story is not the only story like this. Unfortunately, because our healthcare system is really kind of based on a structure of racism with healthcare, it just because of how you look, your geographics, they look at you based on that and not the person. And so we were put out of the hospital. And then I went home,
can I ask a
ended up,
question?
yes.
What's the prevalence of lupus in certain demographic groups?
So of course it's women, well, demographics. So people of color and mostly African Americans have it the most. I think I'm trying to think. And then so it's African Americans, and then it's Asians, and then you have Hispanics, and then our Native Americans have are prevalent with lupus more so than any other demographic, and of course women. So and then people, women in the black women that are young. So I was the black woman and I was young. I was 19. So that was definitely, and like you just said, so that's the prevalence and that's what is normal. So anybody who knows anything about lupus, that should have been a trigger to say, hey, she meets all of these. And so, but that was just not the case,
Well,
black women.
well, I was actually looking at it the other way around. So if we know that in this particular diagnostic category that the prevalence is um, swayed on one particular group of people, and for the most part, it sounds like you're saying really minority women tend to suffer with
Mhm,
this most often,
mhm.
then that should be not that they should be looking for that in you because you fit into the category, but when I'm engaging with you, once I know that you have this diagnosis and you fit into this category, I should be prioritizing your care so that way this particular group of people don't have to the uh deal with the structural fallacies, right? Like this, we know the structure is broken, but all it takes is one person to be able to sit there and say that you're worth my time to try and figure out what's going on with you.
You're right. And that is why I try to urge people as much as possible to participate in the clinical studies so that they can learn more about us. And we don't have and that's part of the problem. Not enough Black people participate in clinical studies. And I get that some of that is historical, things that have happened in our past. But for them to be able to treat us, and to find what works for us, because certain medications work better for people of color than for our white counterparts. It is very important that we can find some good clinical studies. Like I do clinical studies for the University of Michigan. I'm not, make sure there are reputable places that are doing the clinical studies if you're interested. But that is how we can make so much advancement for this disease.
Yeah,
Like I said,
yeah,
women
definitely. I mean, I feel like
are 3 times as likely to have it.
Yeah, no, this is, I didn't know all of the detail that you experienced, but I think that's absolutely unacceptable that that's allowed to occur in our healthcare system. Crazy story. When I was a young nurse, I remember
Mhm,
having a sickle cell patient, which again targets minority people and generally women
mhm,
in
mhm,
disproportionate rates. And so I remember having a black patient. She was a young girl, and they over medicated her with opioids. I know that now. I didn't know that
mhm,
then. I thought that I was treating her the way that needed to be treated because the pain was so severe. The problem wasn't
mhm,
actually the pain. The problem was that she was now addicted to a medicine that they gave her because she was suffering from pain, and they did not consider any other alternatives.
mhm. Yeah,
It's crazy.
and that's so you either get those doctors that end up later on getting their licenses taken away that are just over medicating, are giving, the reason why we're in this opioid crisis, just giving way too much medication to people, and they're walking around like zombies. And then, of
Hmm.
course, they've hit their tolerance, and then you've got to increase it more, and they're just damaging their internal organs. And some these doctors don't care. Then you have the other people that are scared to do anything just because of all the different regulations, and they're just not want to give you anything. You can have surgery today, and they'll tell you to go home and take two Tylenol or two Motrin,
Yeah.
and
And
that's just because they're scared.
Sharetta and I was just talking about on the last one, like even Tylenol is easy, like as accessible as Tylenol is, it still burdens the body system. So we
Hmm.
over, like, even with those like easy to access medications, we over medicate. Like it's like, oh,
We
my
do.
knee hurts today, my back hurts today. Let me go take this medicine, to fix it,
Yep.
to band-aid it, and never consider any other alternatives that, will be a
Hmm.
little bit less like taxing on your body to process.
Absolutely. When I was going through all of this, my great grandmother, this is how I ended up getting into herbs. And that's why I want to go back to our roots of eating from the ground and using herbs to treat us. Because, you know, she was giving me when there was a time where the doctors basically told my mom to get your family together. She's not going to
Feel
make
free
it.
to share this with
My
anybody
grandmother went,
in the conversation.
what was that? I'm sorry.
Oh, did you hear me?
Yes,
Oh, I'm sorry.
but I didn't hear
I
what
didn't.
you were saying.
Don't
Oh,
worry.
okay.
Don't worry.
Okay. So my grandmother went in her kitchen and she got these herbs together, and she was like, "Honey, I need you to put this in some hot water and drink this 2 times a day." And I mean, she went to the Bible and she was like, "This is in the Bible, and I want you to read these scriptures, and I want you to take this herb." And I got off my deathbed, and I'm here 30 years later. So I just feel like personally, me, I need to go back to our roots, and so I've actually started really learning more and more about different herbs that we can take for inflammation, for pain. People need to have alternative options out there, not just say, "Oh, you can only have this as an option." But yeah, that's definitely, you're right. I mean, and even people with lupus, we can't take Motrin, right? It's
Mhm,
ibuprofen. So
mhm.
they want us to take Tylenol. But it's weird that some doctors don't even take the time to realize that. I had a doctor tell me to go home and take Motrin. And I
Wow.
said, "You mean Tylenol, right?" He said, "No, Motrin." And I'm like, "You realize I have lupus, right? And I have kidney function is low." He still
Yeah.
said no. Like it just wasn't clicking. And that's why I say people need to educate. And how do we change that? Is definitely, because I said the healthcare system I feel is built on a systemic racist foundation. So how do we fix that? We realize there's a problem, and we need to come up with ways to fix it as a whole. So
Yeah.
most definitely.
And I feel like the work you do lends to that, because, in my opinion, I feel like there needs to be a shift in how we address the care of the human. That's what I call it.
Hmm.
Because right now we're caring for widgets. We're putting band-aids on
Hmm.
problems, and we're, like, the reason why that doctor couldn't properly assess you is because he didn't remember that when he studied the words in a book.
Right.
He never considered the fact that you are a whole human being and he needed to understand how your body worked,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And so like having like these type of conversations basically is intended or is causing a ripple effect in a way that we even look at the way that we offer care and address wellness as a whole. You know, this
Mhm.
isn't we're not here spreading rumors for the sake of spreading rumors. No, we're sharing information for the sake of saving a loved one, saving somebody's
Mhm.
friend, helping to elevate black and brown communities in a way that hasn't been done in the past. You know, so yeah.
Mhm.
You got,
Mhm.
look, you got me all riled up.
Yeah.
This is about you. Go ahead, keep going.
Right. Okay, sis, we ready. Come. I know who to call.
Seriously, like
Oh
it's
goodness.
so crazy because like I have such a hard time understanding why certain things have become acceptable.
Mhm.
Like why we go to work and we see some of the stuff that we see, we do some of the stuff that we do, two people, two human beings, and we don't think twice about it.
Mhm.
How is that even
Mhm.
possible? How?
Yeah.
And then we wonder why we're suffering with trauma because we done seen some fucked up shit. God damn it, the second time I cussed today. We done seen some messed up stuff in our lifetimes. We've seen death more than anybody has ever seen death.
Mhm.
Most, I mean, not ever, but you know, it's other people that see death.
Mhm.
But it's not right to see that much death. Like that's the point. It's not right.
Mm-mm.
You absorb all
No.
that energy, you take it all in, and then you wonder why these nurses is burnt out. And then in addition to that, you have some sort
Mhm.
of chronic disease. That shit is crazy. It's
Mhm.
crazy.
Mhm. Another thing that I mean, this has nothing to do with lupus. Another thing that I get really upset about is in 2023, we still have Black women dying on the table giving birth. That is ridiculous to me.
Bananas.
We have had too many advancements, and that's again, they're just not listening to us. They don't hear that something doesn't feel right. This pain, and I don't, it's going to take more of us being more vocal, and that's why I'm so passionate about advocating for people, because I had my mother to advocate for me at a young age, and I was actually able to advocate for her before when she dealt with her cancer. Yes, we lost her to breast cancer. However, I was there and able to get her through that after she got
Mhm.
me through mine. So everything happens for a reason, and I'm so glad that she taught me how to advocate for myself and how to advocate for others. It just definitely, because if we don't do that and we don't educate people, we're not going to make any advancement whatsoever. And that's definitely necessary.
Yeah, definitely necessary. And so, you know, I think really what we need to say, what I want to say at least, is that I applaud you for being able to have the balls to do that, right? Like, not everybody, you know, again, not everybody has capacity to do it. And then the other half of people are living in fear of doing it. And, you know, again, going back to all those people that's letting this stuff happen and we see it every day. Well, those people just looking at it and it's happening. So at least you decided to set yourself
Hmm.
apart to make sure that your message gets out, your story gets told. So that way, if one person hears this conversation, they're like, wait, let me think about this the next time I see this situation.
Hmm. Yeah. And I used to be afraid. I mean, I only told you bits and pieces. Maybe one day I can share my full story, but I used to be afraid to even say anything because, you always have those naysayers that you just want to get attention. No, I'm making awareness. Like, and I don't, I used to not just say anything. I wouldn't even tell people I had lupus as if I was, scared to say that or embarrassed. It wasn't that. It was just, I didn't want to deal with the what if whatever came after that. Like, well, what does that mean? You have
Mm-hmm.
lupus, so what does that mean? That's just anything. And then having to, but now everybody I see that is a part of my life, I want to educate them to understand how to deal with me, how to treat
Mm-hmm.
me, how to show up for me, and
Yeah.
so that they understand that it's not intentional. Again, if I come to your barbecue outside in the sun, I love the heck out of you because for 2 weeks, I'm going to be in the bed in severe pain. Just because the sun and the heat and the humidity does. I mean, I'm going to have to wear long sleeves in the summertime, wear sunscreen, wear a hat. I do all of that, and even still, it end up giving me a trigger. Um, you know, whenever I do show up, that's why I tell people, hey, I must love you to death. So yes, I definitely am no longer shy about telling my story or educating people on how to deal and interact and help, how they can also help people like myself. Because there are
Yeah,
ways that you can help. Maybe
that was gonna be
if somebody who can't get out of the bed, that means they probably have a couple dishes in their sink. Come over and volunteer to vacuum their floor. Come over and
Mhm.
wash those dishes. It's okay. Like, don't just show up, first of all. Call and see if it's okay, because some
Right.
people don't like you just showing up at their house. But yes, I will tell you that we will definitely. I don't know any one of us that wouldn't appreciate a true friend coming to help them deal with their when they have their issues.
Yeah, no, and so my question was going to be, what are some things that people should generally know about lupus, or like, what are some things that you feel like you need to share with anybody who's listening?
Um, that we're not lazy. That we are human. We have feelings. That there are times when we just can't show up, and that we use every piece of energy just to get through the day. Um, that's what I think is important for other people to realize. 'Cause I think there's a misconception that all you do is lay in a bed, and that's why we end up giving that very generic when they say, "Well, how are you?" I'm fine. Because you really don't want to know how I'm doing. Some people, I will say that, the people that are really in your corner, they do. Because my friends will be like, "No, I know you're not fine." Even my family will say, "I can hear it in your voice. You need to sit down somewhere. You're doing too much."
Hmm.
Um, you just think you have to be the hostess with the mostest. You don't. And so, as a survivor, what I would like to tell other people is listen to your body. We know, especially those of us who've been in this on this journey for a long time, I can feel having a trigger. I can feel when I'm getting to the point where, can I prevent stress? Absolutely not. But I can prevent negative people who cause me stress, whether that's family or friends, in my space. That's the added stress. I'm going to have the daily stress of being a mother, or being a parent to a disabled child, or whatever stressors you have. You can't prevent. You have to deal with those. And you have to have a job. And I don't know too many jobs that aren't stressful, because even just flipping a burger at a burger joint is going to be stressful. So, you have to learn how to control that stress. And so, what that means for you, self care, if that's for me, what I've start my day out is a 5-minute meditation. I have an hour and a half commute to work. So, I listen to my gospel music. I pray, and I do all of this stuff, getting myself ready for the day. I put on my, when I get to work, I put my diffuser on with my essential oils. I create that space for me, and I also eliminate people out of my space that don't align with my inner peace.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's the true definition of self-care. You know, a lot of times, and I think this is another conversation that comes up. We see people are like, self-care Sunday, and then they go to like the massage, get a massage, and that's the self-care. And it's like, but what do you do
Mm-hmm.
day to day
Mm-hmm.
that helps take care of yourself? Like,
Mm-hmm.
how do you recharge your battery?
Yep.
A lot of people don't even know how to do that for
Mm-hmm.
themselves because they've never even spent the time trying to actually
Yeah.
do that. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
massages and things, they're nice luxuries, but like you don't
Yeah.
need all that stuff to really achieve,
Mm-hmm.
peace within yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
And I definitely practice self-care every day, some form of
mhm.
it. Now, I do have my self-care day, that one day a week. I get together with my girlfriends, and we, talk, eat, drink. and enjoy one another. And that's my
Mm,
self-care for that day. But I still
yeah,
focus on myself every other day.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, definitely. Another thing I wanted to talk to you, kind of mentioned it without mentioning it, toxic positivity. You ever
Hmm.
looked into that term?
I haven't.
Okay. All right. So what I understand about and it sounds like you run into that often. So what I understand about toxic positivity is that, like, you know how you going through something shitty,
Hmm.
you going through something bad, and um somebody meets you and they're like, "It's okay, buck up, Chuck. Everything's totally
Hmm.
okay."
Hmm.
And you
Yeah.
sitting there looking like, "But my day actually is bad." And
Hmm.
they be
Hmm.
trying to they can't really figure out why you're not in good spirits in that moment. Have you ever, like, that's what it sounds like you
Hmm.
experience often. And so they come up with a term now, it's called toxic
Yeah.
positivity, where essentially, like, in
Okay.
my mind, the solution to the toxicity is to ask to give permission if we're able to move on to the healing phase of whatever it is you're going through. And I think really what
Hmm.
happens is people assume that you're there, or they really, really want you to be there, but you're actually not.
Hmm. Hmm.
What do you
Yeah,
think?
I
What
never
do you
heard that term. And you are absolutely right. And that's kind of where I was going with the fact that, please don't generalize
Mm-hmm.
everybody, and it is okay. No, you're right. I can say, and that's why I think we kind of shut down and just say I'm okay, because we
Yeah.
don't want to deal with that toxic, positivity. But I have, I'm not, as I've gotten older, I think I've realized that I don't even care anymore. Like, there's just so much stuff. Like, if you want to go there, let's go there. And so let's
Right.
do it. And that's how I am. And it's just like, as I've gotten older, I'm like, dang, I done turned into my grandmother because she was not for it.
Yeah.
But I used to just let people do what they wanted to do, and
Mm-hmm.
no more. Like, I call you on your BS. No, we're not doing that. And
Let
so,
me tell you
um,
something. I know I was just I'm ask me a question, you're gonna get the answer. That's where I'm at these
okay.
days.
And I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm gonna tell,
Okay.
and it's so funny. My staff tell me all the time, I don't know why they mess with you because they know they're gonna. I was like, I don't know either,
Right.
because I'm not for it. Like, don't do that. Whether it's just stupid stuff. It just no. Okay, you did that, and you didn't take me and pull me aside, so I'm not pulling you aside. I'm gonna meet you where you're at, and we're gonna do
Okay.
this right
Okay.
now.
Right now. Right now.
So the professionalism in me exits left because your professionalism never showed up. So,
Okay. Yeah,
yes.
that question shouldn't got asked. Okay, like, keep it to yourself. But
Yep.
no, this has been great, Adrian. I really appreciate it. Is there anything, like, before we wrap up, anything else you want people to know?
Um, I don't No, I don't think so. I think, just again, just awareness, and be mindful of May being Lupus Awareness Month. Be kind to us. Just, a phone call to a person. Just, hey, I'm just checking on you. Um, and just not generalizing and being judgmental.
Yeah,
And then also finding ways that we can help as a community to educate people on the benefits of, and I don't even think we really touch much on, the CBD, but just the benefits of the plant, um, for the diseases that people encounter out here, as well as the just being mindful and listening, taking the time to educate yourself, even if you have to educate yourself and read up on what it means to have lupus and the different types and what somebody goes through, because it affects every system, every part of our body. There's, whether it's the skin, your heart, your lungs, and it's just really a debilitating disease that just does not get enough attention. So I'm
yeah,
here for that.
absolutely, absolutely. And you know what? If we do this again, we're gonna definitely talk more about CBD. How's that?
Okay.
All right. Like, oh, y'all cannabis nurses, all you talk about is cannabis. Yeah, okay. Let's talk more about that.
Man. That was the plan, but the
Right,
plan changed, so it's okay.
right,
I go with the flow.
right. Anyway, I'm gonna disconnect. Thank you so much,
Okay,
Adrian.
thank you. Have a good night.